Well, hi everybody and welcome to another piano video here on the Merriam Pianos YouTube channel. My name is Stu Harrison, and in today's video we are comparing, finally I might add, both Bosendorfer sample libraries from Vienna Symphonic Library's Synchron piano engine. This one I'm pretty stoked about because I really like what these folks have done generally with the project, the whole Synchron project, everything it's about. Really it makes you feel when you're playing the instrument like you're really truly there, unlike in my view really any other VST on the market. There are a lot of great sounding VSTs on the market. Garriton CFX certainly comes to mind. Ravenscroft certainly comes to mind. And of course Pianotech comes to mind. But in terms of a plugin that equally makes you feel like you're actually in the room behind a real 9-foot piano, feeling the air around that piano move, just a very visceral feeling. This is really top of list for me. But then on the other hand, once you've got the recording, the ability to treat this like a multi-channel recording session and really get in there and edit as if you were in a live studio setting. It does that particularly well. Again, in my view, probably better than any of the other sample libraries. So it gives you both sides of it at an extremely high level, and in a lot of cases, with the exception of maybe the most exposed high-level classical playing, I dare say that you could probably get away with using a plugin such as this in place of an acoustic piano for a lot of studio recording environments, provided that your input device was accurate enough. In this case, we're going to be using the RD2000 because, well, it fits on the desk, and although I happen to think that the Novus 5 right behind me is probably a little more accurate in terms of the MIDI output, it just doesn't fit. So here we are with this, and we're going to be comparing the Bosendorfer Imperial and the 280 Vienna Concert Edition. So thank you so much for joining us for today's comparison. If it's the first time that you have found us here on YouTube, well, thank you so much for coming by. We really appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button if you enjoy what you see, if you're entertained, you find it helpful, or something in between those two. And ensure to hit the notification bell as well. Otherwise, you won't necessarily know when we come out with new videos. So hit the bell, hit that subscribe, and become part of our community. Without further ado, let's get started with this comparison right away. So the first thing to know about these two sample libraries are that they weren't recorded in the same room, and they are definitely not the same piano. For people who are less familiar with the acoustic piano universe, just seeing the name Bosendorfer might disguise the fact that these two instruments have very different heritages and quite different musical performances. So the Bosendorfer Imperial has been kind of the big daddy on the block for a long, long time. It's the one that goes all the way down to the low, low C. My understanding is that that was done to be able to perform Bach organ works on the piano and go all the way down to the low C like you would on the pedal of an organ. All right, I think so the lore goes. And they just maintained that all the way up through the production of the Imperial through the 20th century. The original Imperials had rims that were made of these solid pieces of spruce, and the whole concept there was that the soundboard really wasn't the only active primary resonating surface. They wanted that rim to also be a resonating surface because it was big, flat, and touched a lot of air. So why not try and make use of it? Was their logic. So although it wasn't really high energy resonance like you can get out of the cabinets, that's something that, say, C. Bechstein or Fazioli or Shigeru Kawai is really focused on. This was more kind of a low energy, immediate sort of woofiness that you got right around the piano in its immediate vicinity, and kind of added to some warmth of the instrument. The other thing was just the broadness of that soundboard, and the way they shaped the soundboard and the whole scale design of the piano really gave it an intense amount of clarity down in that mid to lower mid range that became quite characteristic. And so the Bosendorfer Imperial, I don't think was ever considered the most versatile concert piano, but it certainly has always been thought of as very magical and satisfying to play, as an instrument goes. A few years ago, and definitely after Yamaha took over Bosendorfer, the Vienna Concert Edition came out, and this was certainly an update in several regards. Maintained a few of the Bosendorfer traditions. It's got the independent, capo or capo up in the top treble section to really manage that string tension and make sure that the termination point is just perfect. So it's got that going. It's got the individual stringing going. They keep the same bass string winding techniques that gave it that really unique brassiness that a lot of those Bosendorfers were known for. But it changed quite a bit about the rim structure. They changed the soundboard design. They went with, from our understanding anyway, a flattened soundboard, still crowned but not tapered, certainly as much as what other concert instruments have. And so the character of the instrument has changed a little bit. The behavior at different sound levels has changed. Some things have stayed the same. There's certainly still a really nice clarity that is kind of common between the two of them. So I'm going to start this by just playing both for a minute or so to give you a sense of the character. Now I have identical settings on both. I'm not using any of the synthetic reverb engine, but I do have some of the sympathetic resonance simulation on, as well as the body resonance simulation. But other than that, it's pretty much the way it is. I'll just quickly show you on here the settings we've got for the VC and the settings we've got for the Imperial. So let's start with the Imperial. Oh yeah, this brings up a point. For whatever reason, the default pedal noise on the Imperial is unbelievably loud. So we're just going to bring that down a little bit. Yeah, that's more like it. So you have to make that adjustment. You can see that when you really start playing with the pedal, the total number of samples that it's actually playing at any given time, I don't know if you were looking at the specs down there, but it gets into the 200 range. Like, this is why, to really truly get a great authentic piano performance, when you've got multi-samples happening, you almost need the 256 notes worth of polyphony when you go back to the digital piano world. You just miss out on so much subtlety when it doesn't have that level of polyphony. Okay, let's listen to the Vienna concert now. Immediately you can hear that there's definitely more color and a slightly more blended sound going on. So if we compare from the bass up, let's start with the Imperial. The reason I have the EQ up here is that I really find it fascinating to watch all of the different harmonics happening and what gives bass notes and treble notes their true character. It's interesting, so from about the G down on the Imperial, you can see that the vast majority of the color of the note actually doesn't come from the fundamental anymore. And I'm looking right around this peak here, so that's the A, that's the fundamental. As soon as I get to the A, or the G, that quickly drops off. That brassiness. Over to the VC. Very interesting. So on the VC, you've got the third partial, which is much more balanced, and on the Imperial it really falls off and it kind of gives a slightly different character to that tone. But other than that, it is a fairly similar bass. But the presence of those lower partials in the VC that maintain a little bit longer in the bass give it a warmth that's actually not quite there with the Imperial. Now coming up into the tenor range. VC. It's a much more blended sound on the VC. Up into this range now. All those Mozart lovers out there are gonna be like, sorry. Yeah, those individual notes stay contained so much more on the Imperial, not for better or for worse. And the prominence of the fundamental, I mean, look at that compared to your partials. Over on the VC. Very similar, actually. If not even more. Interesting how those behaviors change from range to range. And then continuing on up into the treble. It's a very simple but clear treble on that Imperial. Definitely a time and a place for that. over to the VC. More color happening there for sure. Slightly noisier treble as well. You can hear just a few uncontrolled harmonics happening, but more color, and you can see it on the EQ as well. It's more shimmer. So if there is an unfortunate aspect to any of this, because this is really just so much fun to play on, it would be that for whatever reason, that 280 VC got recorded in a smaller room with a smaller mic setup. Timing, placement, you know, maybe the VSL folks actually couldn't get a hold of the VC 280, it was on loan, maybe they had to go to another studio other than the Synchron studio that they record these other ones in, whatever the reason. But man, would it have been great to have the full mic complement on that VC280. However, what's there is still quite lovely. You can still get all of the colors I would think you'd want in most situations, just not quite as much of the surround available to you as on the Imperial. But two fairly different characters, even though there are some similarity in character. There's still a pretty nice degree of separation on both, down in that lower range. I would say that the Imperial still maintains more of that. There's definitely a lot more separation through the upper mid-range on the Imperial as well. You can see and hear in that treble that you're getting you know, a ton of the fundamental without a whole lot of harmonics on top. And that's something that the original Bosendorfers were famous for, this clear, pure singing treble. The VC has gone more the way of most of the other concert grands and added quite a bit of color and width to those treble notes. There's also quite a bit more fundamental happening on the bass notes in the Vienna concert. Versus the Bosendorfer, where there's quite a bit more brassiness. So these are all just character timbre differences between these two pianos. If I had to say which one is going to be a more versatile pick, feels like the Vienna concert is probably more in line with what most people like to hear these days in terms of a modern sounding instrument. Certainly on the Bosendorfer Imperial, those gorgeous clear treble notes just hang right on top of all of the other structures you've got going on there. There's virtually no difference between the controls available in either one of these. They're both obviously coming through the Syncron engine. And I'd also suggest that you check out the three-way comparison that we've also done on these libraries between the CFX, the Steinway D, and the Vienna Concert 280. That was really a lot of fun to do as well. Both of these have exactly the same presets available. Like I always suggest, whether it's a software or a digital piano, use your presets to get to a place where it's as close to perfect as your ear wants, and then spend the time to muck around, because you really will find that wonderful sweet spot where you just feel creatively unlocked, Or if you are using this as part of a recording project, well, sometimes it takes a lot of tinkering to get the piano to fit exactly in the mix where you want it, cutting through that perfect balance with whatever else is going on. So thank you everybody for tuning in for another video here on the Merriam Pianos YouTube channel. Hope you have enjoyed the comparison of these two Bosendorfer sample libraries. Please let us know what you thought and comment, and if you found it entertaining or helpful or anything in between, please do subscribe and hit that notification bell, because we would honestly love to have you back as a regular viewer, regular commenter, participator, enjoyer, whatever, on this channel. It is an amazing group of people who have all sorts of different connections to the world of piano, and you will not regret coming and joining this community. It's just simply awesome to see it grow. My name is Stu Harrison, and we will see you again soon.